Welcome to another episode of the Zambezi Belle Podcast. Today we have my bestie as our guest, and I am very excited for you guys to hear what she has to say about life. I'm going to start by introducing her, and then we'll have a word of prayer. Coach Kimiko Hart is a dedicated wellness advocate, spiritual leader, and transformational speaker committed to helping others cultivate a life of balance, faith, and holistic well-being. A Louisiana native, Kamiko's journey of faith began at a young age of 12, leading her to a life of purpose centered on healing, empowerment, and personal growth. She believes in the power of restoration, helping individuals reclaim their strength, purpose, and vitality through faith-based wellness. She has devoted her life to guiding others towards emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being, meeting them where they are and walking with them on their path to wholeness. She's a retired major in the United States Army. She served honorably for 24 years, embodying discipline, resilience, and leadership. Her military career instilled in her the commitment to excellence, which she now channels into her wellness coaching, ministry, and mentorship. She has a Master of Business Administration from the College of William and Mary, and she has a Master of Arts in Christian Studies with a focus on Christian leadership from Grand Canyon University. She is an amazing wellness and empowerment coach, author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker and mentor, and my partner in She Ready to Bloom. Welcome, everybody. Coach Kamiko.
Hey, everybody. Thank you again for having me, Dr. Praise, aka my bestie, and my partner, and She Ready to Bloom.
Let's start with a word of prayer. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this amazing opportunity to be here again today, and thank you for the breath of life. Thank you for providing for us. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Please help us as we'll be having this conversation. Please help every single listener who will be listening to this conversation to come out of this space blessed and changed in some way. Please forgive us for all our sins and help us in everything that we do to give glory to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Coach Kamiko, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're going to have you tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up in Louisiana, and then I'm going to have you read a snippet from your book that is coming out soon.
Hey, everybody. As Praise said, I'm originally from Louisiana, a small town called Opelousas, Louisiana. Most of the time when people don't know what it is, I normally start off by saying like Baton Rouge, Lafayette, because those are closer towns that most people are known for. But again, it's not that far. But growing up in the country, true Southern Belle, kind of old school, traditional way of living that I love because I feel like it also helps build a foundation of character if you allow it to work for you. So I would definitely say my journey in my childhood was definitely an amazing journey. I'm the youngest cousin of my generation. My mom had two sons early on, like when they're 16, 17 years old. But then she went this whole long stint and didn't have any more kids for like a whole decade. So I am the baby, so I'm definitely spoiled in every way. But I also feel like I got the best of both worlds because I was able to grow up in the middle of generations, if that makes sense. So I often tell people, I grew up with my older cousins, but also with their children. So I think for me personally, it allowed me to kind of gleam through the eyes of the seasoned folks a little bit above me, but also relate to the ones that were in my era.
Your teenage years, you were an athlete, and what led you to the Army?
So my teenage years, I definitely so growing up, my mom was a single parent. So she spent a lot of time working. So again, as most people say, I grew up fast. That's what they say in the country, y'all. You grow up fast. Really, it just means that you're probably kind of left to fend for yourself while your mom's at work most of the time. And so my teenage years, I really kind of buckled down into sports because my mom worked overnight. So most of the time, I often tell people her and I relationship was founded on God because in the morning when she's there, I'm there for morning prayer, morning worship. So she made sure in the mornings we got it in. So I will say growing up in my teenage years, I found it to be a blessing later on in life for sure. Not necessarily being eager to be the youngest person at prayer at 5 a.m. But I look back on it now and I'm ever so grateful for those humble beginnings because it truly shaped my foundation of who I am today. And so growing up in middle school, I kind of just engulfed in sports because it was something I learned to be good at, but then also gave me a sense of community when my mom wasn't always there. So for me, I really enjoyed those years. I learned a lot through trial and error.
Yeah, tell
Of
us
being
about some of those eras that ended up being
so
blessings.
trial and error. One of my biggest takeaway I often tell people from my teenage years is being a teen mom. I grew up, again, like I said, being fast, if you will, in the country.
Fast, what does
So
that mean? I was a teen mom, but I wasn't fast.
fast means if you like they say you in the fast lane, you trying to get like Jonah 3 days in make up a 3 days journey in a day's time. So but no, I would say honestly, it was more about so I always dated older guys. So I didn't never date anybody that was my age. So in my high school years, y'all, I didn't ride a bus. I didn't eat in the cafeteria. My boyfriend dropped me to school. He brought me lunch because he was older
How
than
much
me.
older was your boyfriend?
Well, let's just say back then, let's just say I was 16, maybe plus 7, 8 years, something like that, somewhere around that. Uh, so I often tell people I think it was a blessing for both of us because when I met him, I was a church girl. So all I knew was church, school, and sports. I didn't know anything else outside of that. But meeting him, he grew up, as we would say, on the other side of the tracks. So
And this is the mid-90s, y'all.
so meeting him, I met him literally. I had just came back from summer track. I used to run summer track in Houston, Texas. Out of all the sports I played, I was track and field was my heart. It's my love. It's something about like the wind and you just walking people down on the track. It's like the best feeling ever. So, but when I met him, I just came back from running summer track in Houston. And so I met him in a season of his life. He had just recently, he had been incarcerated.
Okay.
He was what we call a street pharmacist back then. Uh,
Street pharmacist.
I mean, it's no real like true job title, for the lifestyle. So meeting him, I never forget. My first week of dating him, I had just went back to school my junior year in high school, and like all the girls wanted to fight me. I was like, "Who are you?" Like, dude, like no. So I wanted to break up with him. I literally went home to break up with him, y'all, because it was so bad. Because I wasn't used to that. And of course, he was upset. He was like, "So you gonna just break up with me because people want to be you?" And I'm like, I don't know. This is a bit much for me because I didn't know anything about that lifestyle. And so I stayed in the relationship. Let's just say I stayed. I learned to find my place with being okay with the relationship.
Indeed, you're getting all these perks. You have somebody who drives you in a fancy car to go to school, who's giving you money, who's providing for you all those things that at 16, mom would
You know
say,
what?
"You don't need that."
But I say it was a blessing because it's almost like the movie Church Girl. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I think Ja Rule and somebody else plays in it. But because of who I was spiritually and what I lacked, my father died when I was in the 6th grade. So I didn't have a father figure in the home with
Mhm.
me. And my mom worked overnight. So he would come and sit with me at night. And then eventually we would fall asleep. And when my mom came home, oh my God, it was, baby, it was trouble in the city. You hear me?
I
But
cannot even imagine. I would have been killed. I would have been dead. My mom would
I
have
just the
literally.
first time it happened, I just knew like, yo, my life is flashing before my face. I don't know what to say. I was just like, oh, mom, I'm so sorry. But she also knew her daughter. So it was like, and it was innocent. We were watching TV and we fell asleep. And so that happened a few times. And eventually he ended up she just stopped fussing about it. And I think it's because she kind of, as a mom, now looking back as, me being a mom, um, I would say that it was probably more like at least my 16-year-old daughter isn't in a home by herself anymore. Because at that time, I have a younger brother. He was actually he was in juvenile, so he was incarcerated at the time as a juvenile. My sister, who's older than me, by that time she had gotten married and moved out because she had her kids we just had this teen mom cycle going on, generational thing, right? But
Mhm.
my sister had married her, you could say her elementary boyfriend. Like when I tell you my sister and my former brother-in-law was together since sixth grade, like, and they were married for like 25 years.
Oh.
So he was all I saw. So, but she was doing her thing. My little brother, unfortunately, was in his circumstances. And for me, I was home by myself. So I think that over time, she kind of made peace with it. I don't know, looking back on it. Um, that's what I would probably say to that. It's not something her and I ever really went back and kind of dissect the why
Mhm.
behind, if I'm honest. And so being with him, like I said, for him, I think I gave him a sense of pride because I played all sports. So he was always at all of my volleyball games, all of my basketball games, all of my we were like the ideal couple to people in high school, which is weird. I remember being in the locker room and people were running and say, Kamiko, baby's here. That's his nickname. And I was like, okay, like, all right. But to him, growing up in his circumstances, I think it just really made him proud, like to say, and for me, I felt good because I had someone there like that was proud because my
Yeah.
mom could never make anything because she was always working at night. And so I think for us, it was like a good balance, I guess, looking back on that season of my life. Learned a lot about the street life, I will say it that way. Because again, that was something I was completely oblivious to. But I think also when I fast forward to who I am now and I looked at my journey in the military, like all those things help give me that diversity I think I needed to be able to interact with soldiers of all cultures. So by me learning that when I went to the military, I had soldiers that's what they grew up in. So I could relate to them and I could reach them in that place. So and that's one time I said we don't know why God is allowing us to experience certain things and certain seasons of our lives. It normally always, like the old people say, keep living and you'll understand it better by and by. And then I've come to learn that as I continue to live, I understand it better by and by. And so those high school years, like I said, really was amazing for me. I had some options leaving out of high school. So again, the military wasn't necessarily my first choice, but it was a good choice for me because I had an opportunity to go to Grambling on a track scholarship. I also could have went and played on I think it was the first girls basketball team at LSUE, which is a junior college in Eunice, Louisiana. And then it was the military. And so right before I graduated high school, of course, unfortunately, my son father got in trouble. So he had to, like we say, go sit down for a little bit. That just means that, he has to go, serve his time, his tenure for his actions. I'll say it that way. And at the time, he had asked me, he was like, Kamiko, if you want, I could buy you a place to live, put it on some land, and you and AJ, which is my son, will be okay. But I also know in that lifestyle, when you
Mhm.
take those things, that means that
Mhm.
you're going to wait for them till they get out. And that was my clean break, girl. I was running for the borders, as they say.
So, how old were you when you had your son then?
I had him when I was 17, going on 18, because his birthday
So
is
you were
March.
still in high school and you were juggling
I was a
finishing
senior
high
in high school.
school.
Yes. So
Yes.
I finished, yeah. Literally, like when I had was pregnant for my son, I still played volleyball the whole season. I played basketball
With
until
that
we
big
made
belly?
well, it didn't sprout out that way, phrase initially.
Because I remember when I was 18 and pregnant, and boy, it just seemed like that belly was so big.
No, it came later, I would say that. But the thing is, it's like but people knew I was pregnant, but,
Yeah.
even basketball, I played basketball until right before we went to finals, and then my basketball coach was like, "Kamiko, you can't play." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "They have to learn to play without you. You won't be here when they're gonna need you the most." I was so mad
Oh.
at him, I really was. And so I understood, but I still would just, like, do the books and stuff for the team. And I literally 6 weeks after I had my son, I was back on the track team. I was like baby, I dropped that load and I was like, I'm going back and finish and do what I love. So yeah, having him as going through my senior year pregnant was definitely different. But I think it's just because I being a teen mom, but also his father was still present a lot. So I think that really helped me. And then with him being a little older, and it was his first child and it was a boy. So the support he gave was really, really good. So I was able to get through that. I mean, I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard because baby, we had some rumbling in the city days. Definitely.
And at that
Because
time when your emotions are so I can't even explain those teenage emotions. My gosh. What is something crazy that you did when you were mad? I just wanna know that I'm not alone.
I'm gonna share this moment because it was a turning moment for it was a lot of good things that came out of this moment. It's crazy, but I'm gonna just say it's like it really a lot came out of it. So I remember one night he came, and this is a small town, so everybody knows everybody, y'all. So a girl literally that lived like across the street or something called me. I was like, "Hey, Kamiko, I just seen Matthew. He's in the so his government name is Matthew's nickname, baby. Um, they was like, I seen him in a club or something. I was like, okay. So he called. He was like, hey, I'm gonna come over. I was like, no, you need to go to your mama's house because I already knew you'd been out. I didn't tell him I knew, but I had already known. Him being who he is, very persistent, wants what he wants, so he comes over anyway. So when he comes in, and I was like, I opened the door. One, you still got the bracelet on from the club. Two, you got the shirt on that we just bought at the mall the same day. Well, when he came over, he knocked on the door, and one, he had the bracelet on from the club still. Two, he had the shirt on that we literally bought at the mall the same day. So I already knew you went somewhere. And so we're talking, and then back then, he had pagers was the thing. So he had this, so his pager went off and it was two different numbers. So I like picked and chose one of the numbers to call back, to message back to see who it was. Cause it's like 2, 3 in the morning, right? And so it's this girl and she
Wait, was he
tells me,
sleeping when you picked up his pager then?
no, he had just walked in from the club, girl. So it was like, he was standing right there. And I was like, okay, let me call one of these numbers back. And so when I called the number back, it was a girl. And she was like, oh, I be watching your baby while you at school. Mm-mm. Uh-uh. Girl, like that's they say like it's Oppo statement, I fade to black. I can't see nothing. I was like, I know you lying. And stuff. We went into this whole big argument. And mind you, my mom works, she's always at work all night. Like she never come home early. My mom doesn't come home till early in the morning. And so we're going back and forth. We're arguing, and I'm heated. Like praise God, I'm heated. And so he runs outside. And so on my way running behind him, I grabbed a knife out of the kitchen
Gosh.
because he thought he was going to leave. And I was like, you're not leaving today. So I cut all 4 tires. All the 4 tires. I was like, you're not leaving here today. Like, you're just not going to roll away from this scenario. And it was crazy because some of the guys in the neighborhood was still outside standing on the corner, right? And so they like, Mika, what's going on? So him and I arguing, but the whole time I still have the knife in my hand, not thinking that I'm, because I'm in the heat of the moment, right?
Yeah.
So my dry run try. So he calls himself trying to run for me, girl. And so there's this truck that's like a park, like adjacent, like across the street. So he runs around the back side of the truck and I run around the front side. By the time he gets there, I'm already there. So he tries to stop and go back and he falls. And so, girl, so now I'm standing over him. And so all the guys on the corner is like, Mika, don't do it. Don't do it.
My
But I'm
gosh.
like, what are they hollering for? I still have the knife in my hand, right? So I guess I didn't, I wasn't thinking about it like that. And then who comes around the corner? My mom. Girl, I was like, are you kidding me? So then my mom comes and I'm like, I was so mad with her because she let him use her car to go get his other tires. I was so mad. I was like,
My
he
gosh.
he should go walk and get every tire one by one. So
I
mad.
have to say for our listeners, what is the craziest thing that you ever did when you when you got mad? Put it in the comments because I know, ladies, that you have done some crazy things. So come
Oh my
clean.
God.
We just listen, we don't judge. So just come clean.
Like disclaimer, y'all. I was 17, 18. It's probably senior in high school, about to graduate. So I was like, but really, I think it was definitely a God appointed thing for my mom to come home early. And then now I understood why she let him use her car, because then it gave her and I a chance to talk. And I never forget, my mom was like, Mika, anytime a man can take you out of your character to this
Mm-hmm.
extreme, nothing good is ever going to come out of that. And I never forget that night I prayed and I asked God to take him out of my life. And a few weeks later is when he got in trouble and he had to go, as we would say, sit down. And he had to go away for 3 years. And
Wow.
that was God gave me that number 3, those 3 years to make a pivot in my life, to
Yeah.
change it for the better. And I will say, looking back on it, that was the turning point of the evolution of who Kamiko was going to become in the future.
Mm-mm.
But it took that moment to, yeah.
Wow. Well, since we are here now, I'm going to have you please read an excerpt from your book, and
Oh.
we are going to just go right there.
All right. So my new book that's coming out very, very soon is called The 3 M's: Military, Marriage, and Ministry, Bridging the Gap Between Purpose and Calling. So for people who may not know, those are 3 different hats I wore throughout my journey, being a soldier, being a pastor's wife, and trying to learn how to be married materially. I'll be a wife. And so, of course, it didn't come easy, but it comes with this challenge, just like everything else in life. So, so the book is broken down into 3 parts. So, part 1 is called Strong Woman, and the first chapter is Strong Woman. So, I'm going to read the conclusion toward the end of that chapter. It talks about redefining what it means to be strong. For most of my life, I thought strength meant surviving in silence. I thought it meant showing up, showing out, and never showing cracks. I thought it meant outworking, outpraying, and outlasting every challenge. But I've learned sometimes the hard way that real strength is not the absence of weakness. It's the willingness to embrace it. It's the pause before the breakdown. It's the breath between battles. It's the whispering prayer when the world expects a speech. Strong women get tired. Strong women doubt. Strong women need space to unravel and reset. I'm no longer ashamed of my tired days or my tears. They are proof that I've been carrying things no one else could see, wearing a crown that often felt way too heavy to hold. And yet I did it. I held it. I held it for my family, for my soldiers, my church, my marriage, and for generations of women who were never given permission to just be. I'm learning that I don't have to hold it alone. I'm learning that submission is not surrender of identity. It's the creation of shared strength. That help is not a threat to my worth. It's a healing to my heart. That I can be soft and still be sacred, vulnerable and still be victorious. So if you see me now and I seem a little quieter, a little softer, it's not because I've lost my strength. It's because I've redefined it. I no longer carry the need to prove anything, not to the army, not to the church, and not even to marriage, because I now know I'm strong, not because I carry it all, but because I finally learned to put some of it down. And in doing so, I became free. I became full. I became the kind of strong woman who doesn't survive, she blooms.
Wow. That is incredible.
Thank you, Dr.
What are the lessons that you learned from the military? Let's start with that.
Whew. Lessons I've learned is don't be afraid to be the only one in the room. And I say that is as I journeyed throughout my career in the military, oftentimes I was met with, oh, nobody can do that. Oh, we've never done that before. What qualifies you to apply for this position? So those are some of the challenges I met. And when I can tell you, Praise, that my career in the Army, I never worried because God always, like, it was like, God does not play about Kamiko. And I
Mhm.
learned that in my career because, we don't always get to choose our assignments. We don't always get to I don't care what they say. It's not really a choice. It makes you feel like it's a choice, but it ain't really no choice. So oftentimes I was given opportunities that really most people did not get and in the circumstances. When I got selected for grad school,
Mhm.
it was the Major General Fellows Program. The first year the Army had ever done is we were the inaugural class. They had already slotted for 20 people to go. Well, I applied straight through the school the way the announcement was said, and they accepted me. But the Army tried to come back and tell me no.
Mm.
And because if you look at the prerequisites, I was not supposed to be accepted into the program because I did not meet the prerequisites. But because the school did, and I had built a relationship with the administrator, she was like, Kamiko, we've chosen you. So they're going to choose you. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way. And I said, okay. And she did just that. I was the only Black female out of the 20. I was the only AGR soldier. I was the only one that had not been a captain's career course. I was the only one that had not took the GMAT. So when I tell you all of the odds were against me, but God,
God.
that's where I was supposed to be. And that was what I was supposed to do. And looking back on that journey, during that season, not only was I in the Army, but I was also a pastor's wife. But I literally graduated on Mother's Day because that's William and
Wow.
Mary's thing. So it was a gift to my mother for her first child to get a grad degree through that
That
experience.
is that is something that I have learned with experience, that when God works, he works in such a way that you look back and you cannot say so and so helped me or my qualifications helped me. You just say it was only by the hand of God that I am here.
Yes. hmm And I never forget when I was in grad school, I was having a hard day. So I had one of my first lady friends. I never forget First Lady Haygood. God, bless her in her transition. But she was she was just a beautiful spirited person. So when I was having a hard time as a first lady, I would call her. Um, and I never forget one day I was on the phone with my career manager, and I was just going through so much with him in ministry at the time and being in grad school and being a mom
Mhm.
and like all the things I had going on. And I remember calling my career manager and I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
And so she said, Kamiko, you are going to do this because you're doing it for every woman that is watching you and that will need to know your version of the story. You're doing it for all of us who didn't get this opportunity, but God gave it to you. And I'm not going to let you be distracted or get off focus. And the reason why I bring her up, because toward the end of my career, she became one of the people I mentored spiritually when she went through a hard time ending her career. So it's like the season I needed her,
Yeah.
she was there for me, not knowing that at the end of her journey, when she's ready to
Yeah.
hang up her boots, I would be the seed and the flower that she needs to see bloom so she can make it to the end of her journey.
Wow.
So it's definitely have been, when I tell you, so I would definitely say that in the military, being okay with being the only one in the room is one of my biggest takeaways. And that if I can share with anybody else, any other woman out there, when you're the only woman in the room, know that you physically may be the only woman in the room,
Mhm.
but you're representing so many other people that's not in there.
Amen. What was it like being deployed? For some of us who are civilians, not ever been in the army, we have no idea what happens when y'all are out there protecting our rights and our freedoms.
So believe it or not, being deployed isn't hard. It's being the people you with makes it even harder.
Mm.
And I say that because the one time in my career that I've ever been reprimanded was when I was deployed. So again, a God thing, right? So when I was deployed, I was what we call cross-leveled into this unit. So that means everybody in this unit is, majority of them are organic to the unit. And then you have us that what we call cross-level. We come in and we offset their numbers. So in this entire element, it was only 3 Black females. I was the youngest of the 3 Black females, and I was the only one that wasn't a part of the original element. So I was just assigned to them. So then henceforth my journey began. That was the making of me and my career in my enlisted days, because I did 9 years enlisted and then I did the remainder as an officer. But being deployed, you learn, one, how to be very resourceful.
Mhm.
So the time when I went in what we call FY02, we didn't always have like running showers. Like, we're not going to go turn the shower head on you. It wasn't like that. But it was so hot. And so your water would be hot. So there are days when I just took my bottle of water and I showered with it instead of drunk it. That's how I got a hot shower. Because it's like, well, I'm not going in here and turn on the hot water because there's none. So you just, retain the water from the day and you use that as a shower. But again, God always has a ram in the bush. And I would say that when I got there, like, we created this gospel group. And so really, like, we didn't really have a chaplain that was specific to our faith, but there was one that took on the responsibility to oversee what we were doing. So, which we were ever so grateful for him. So, but we literally grew to the biggest gospel service on the fob, literally. Like, we had a choir, we had musicians. Like, you would think we were back in the States. We were like really getting it. But I thank God for them, because every day we had something, whether it was Monday night prayer, Tuesday choir rehearsal, Wednesday night midweek service, Friday night live service. So it was always something going on that helped me be rooted and grounded when I had to face those moments of adversity. Because trust me, they were there. That was the first time I ever had dealt with racism in the Army,
Mhm.
blatant racism in the Army. I remember we were getting ready to go out on a convoy. We used to haul fuel. And I was assigned to what we call the rear gun truck. So my vehicle was the last vehicle with like all the heavy firearms on it. And we were preparing to go out on mission this day. And I came out, and one of the young men decided to put redneck on the side of our truck. And I was like, not today, not the truck that I'm commanding. So I had 2 gunners in the back, and I told them, I said, when I get back out here, I need this to be off the door. So they took it off, of course. And so when the young driver, because the person who wrote it was my driver. And so when he came back out, of course, he asked, like, oh, who took it off the door? But so the 2 gunmen in the back, one was white and one was Black. And so he only saw the white soldier, not the African American, because he had scooted down to lock down the 50 cal rounds. So of course, when he said, well, hey, Sergeant Thomas was like, we gotta take that off the door, he goes into this rant, and he is like, F that Black, whatever. I'm a white. He just goes on and on in this tangent. So mind you, my other soldier stands up and he jumps out of the back of the truck. They get into this big altercation. So I'm coming out. I'm like, I just see everybody scattered. I'm like, yo, like, what is going on? Lo and behold, I found out what I just shared with you. And I was like, and so through that experience, and I tell people, like, here it is, we're laying our lives on the line every day. We're about to go outside of this wire where people don't like none of us, regardless of what our skin color is. And I have to trust my life in your hands. And we can't even get it right on this side of the gate.
Right.
And so, and through that, of course, me, I'm big on intervention. So yeah, like, they all were mad at me. I didn't care. But they had mandatory EO training every Friday as an entire company, because it's like, you cannot expect us to serve and trust this anybody when this is what's really in your heart. How do I not know that we're going to go out and we get in a gunfire, and I'm thinking I'm taking enemy fire, and it might be friendly fire from you. So things like that happen, and it's just it's our reality. It's what we face all the time. But I tell God, like, in those moments, it really just showed me the importance of, one, learning how to give grace, but also making sure people have the tools to see themselves for who they are, and pray that they really work on fixing those issues. So, of course, I became, I would say like the black sheep of the company, but I really didn't care at that time, because it's like, I'm going to stand for what's right. But even in that, God always has a ram in the bush. and I ended up meeting one of our sergeant majors, and he ended up moving me to another company while I was there. So throughout the rest of my time serving there, I was still able to participate in all the church services as Ashley was over the training. I love
Mhm.
teaching and training. It's my passion. And those same people that I had issues with would always have to come back to me to use my range to do the things I so it just forced you to you how God will spin it back around, you know. But I would say definitely it was some humbling times. I learned to value life. You know, because there was one time when we take what we call incoming rounds, because you don't know, like, you just don't know. Every day you had a 50-50 chance to live in today. And hey, and that's how you move. And I never forget, it was one day we had a lot of incoming round, and they called the all clear sign too soon. And
Mm.
that was the day I remember I declared and I said, God, I'm not running to another bunker. I'm not running for coverage. If it's my time, it will be my time, because they called the all clear time too soon. And when everybody started coming out the bunkers, the last mortar round came over.
Mm.
And it was nothing but just body parts everywhere. You just bag it and tag it, and you know the DNA will sort it out later. But that was the day for me. Like I say, you learn what death feels like in the atmosphere. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
really start saying, God, I thank you. I appreciate you. One, for a sound mind,
Yes.
because it does start with what we think, you know. And so through that deployment, I just learned to be genuine about my relationship with God, be
Mhm.
genuine about handling the people that God assigned to me on my journey,
Mhm.
and also just taking every day to tell people that you love and people that are close to you what they really mean to you. And I learned this early on. And I'm so grateful because, again, like I said, when I fast forward and I look at, you know, the last 2 years of my life, almost 3 years, like, um, I can really say, especially when I look at me and my mom's journey and her
Mhm.
transition and her no longer being here, I'm grateful that I learned to tell her that. But it came through that experience. It
Yeah.
quickly made me not be complacent and not take things for granted, because I had to live a different way.
Yeah.
And so, and when you do that, you live with a different continence and how you move about your day.
And that's the thing, because as a transplant surgeon, it's very difficult. We see death pretty much more than any other physician, because we see, for us to be able to do our job, which is to help with life, it's a lot of times through death. And, you know, I used to fear death growing up, and even in my early years as a nurse and as a physician. But now I don't fear death. Like, I have a respect for death, don't get me wrong, but I don't fear death. But also, for you having to see death, like, I have sort of been trained to deal with death, but you just seeing death like that.
Hmm.
How was that for your soul? And like, how did you get help to get through that period? Because in that moment, you have to set things aside and compartmentalize so that you can get through that period of time and get through the day. But how were you able then to deal with death at that magnitude?
Girl, thank God for the gospel service we had. I would so, and this is why I say, you know, even on the Sunday mornings when I would walk in, because we had to move to the theater because we had grown so big, and there was no other building on the 5 that could hold us. But just
Mm-hmm.
walking in and, you know, the soldiers opening the door saying, you know, "Good morning, woman of God." Like, constantly reminding me of who I was in God.
Mm.
So I didn't go to salsa night, the R&B nights that they had, because I knew that on Sunday morning, when they see me on Wednesday night at Bible study, at Friday night fire service, or when I'm leading women's prayer, I need them to see a real version of who God is, the best that I could give them. And
Mm.
so for me, that helped me in processing, one, not only all the new things and nuances I had ever would have never imagined I would experience in life at the same time, but it also taught me like how to be that safe space at the same time for other people.
Yeah.
So if I get it right and I spend time with God and I pray and I fast and he gives me peace, when I share with them, they can feel my peace.
Mm.
They can see my joy in my smile, in my laughter. I can give the encouraging word when everybody is in tears.
Wow.
when the convoy is about to go out and they don't want to leave because there's like, because what you do can change. But when it's who you are and it's embedded in the fiber of your being, it's
Yeah.
so much easier. And so I would say for me, that's probably the biggest thing. Like God knew I needed that gospel service just as much as that gospel service probably needed me. Because it really was my peace in my storm, the refuge, my safe place, my hiding place. What I need.
So, what are your thoughts about heaven? I know we've had this discussion offline before. What are your thoughts now about heaven?
After my conversation I had with this amazing young lady named Praise, right? I really believe like heaven is truly a holding place for a new beginning when all of this is over. And our goal is to make sure that we do all the things, build the character that we need on this side of heaven so we can experience that new heaven, that new earthly home, as some would call it, on the other side. And so I'm kind of like you. I've learned to like not fear death, but also live a life intentionally so I can call heaven my home. So I can meet your mom and my mom, and we can all sit together and do great things and whatever that new beginning looks like. So,
Tell us a little bit about being a pastor's wife. So, you were a minister's wife. How did you
yeah.
reconcile the face that you put out in the church and the service that you're giving in the church and what you're doing at home?
So once you guys get that book, The Three M's, you'll get the unraw, unedited version. So I will say that having a relationship with God early on in my life was the right thing to do. I'm so glad I knew God for myself because there were days that what I knew God to be and how we served and how we lived weren't always
Uh-huh,
in alignment.
uh-huh,
Um, and so I think the one thing in my role as a first lady is people always appreciated the real version of me. I was always real. I was always the woman without imperfections, the woman who didn't mind to let you see that I had flaws. I was not flawless. But at the same time, I always covered it with grace. And I often tell people when you genuinely love and you care
uh-huh.
and your actions lines up with that, then it does make loving God's people so much easier. It helps you to earn the trust of them. That doesn't mean you're not going to have, the enemies everywhere, right? So I think it's also, I learned how to, I didn't get it right always the first time.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to say that. I learned like who to trust with what. That is so important. Vetting people, making sure that they have the right agenda and motives. Being in the military, I knew how to lead people.
Uh-huh.
So being a natural leader is what I had already learned to do. So that side of ministry was easy because I mean you're leading people. But when we get home, so that was the one thing like with my when I was married to Lambert, um he had never been a husband before. He hadn't even
Mm.
been a father before. It was
Wow.
just him. Everything he learned, good and bad, in the church. Just all you knew was the church, girl. So, and here it is. I'm a mom. I'm a leader. I'm serving. I've traveled the world. Like, our backgrounds were so different. I was exposed to so much more than he was. But I will say that now he can preach the house down. He could sing, he can pray, he can raise the offering, girl, he could do all of that. And I always would tell him he was still, and to this day, he's still one of my favorite preachers. Um, even in his transition, I just feel like the anointing that God gave him was designed for him. Like he really had that well. But I will say in the background, learning to be a husband, learning to be a soldier spouse, learning to be a father, like those things definitely had its challenges because he just had never done it. And then part
Mhm.
of it, you have to want to do it.
Yeah. And
Um,
how was dating for you as a single mom?
so dating for me as a single mom, Early on, I didn't really spend a lot of time dating because I was so career focused.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, was probably why my relationship suffered, and I should have went back and reset what marriage meant early on in my life. Because once I became, like, I guess, sitting in certain seats in the military, I'll say that, and then my relationship definitely took a back seat. But for me, I personally felt like, not to say this is this is right, y'all, but I'm gonna share. I'm gonna say it sounds terrible. But the husbands of my choosing, it was more like I took you from the pits to the palace, so you should have nothing to complain about. But that was so I just said it was gonna sound bad, y'all, so give me grace. But I had to learn that because I love them in my love language. And my love language is receiving gifts and acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to love people in your love language.
Mm-hmm.
But if their love language is quality time and physical touch, well, what are we doing?
So, okay. So let's dial this back a little bit. So we talked a little bit about you losing your dad when you were 6. And so how much older was this husband? I'm just
Sixth
curious to
grade?
see if you continued with your pattern of dating older men.
No, and that's another where I messed up. I should have stayed doing that. That's my problem. Had I done that, I would have been all right, Riley Praise. I ain't gonna lie. I would have been all right. I would have been all right. But no, they actually were closer to my age. I mean, even
Okay.
though, because Lambert was, he still was under the age I would normally have dated. So even though he's
Yeah.
a little older, he still wasn't old enough.
Old
So that
enough.
was,
So he
he
was
was,
like 4, 5 years older?
yeah. I need
Okay.
like a decade. Like I need a whole decade older. Like, I don't know. That's probably why I'm still single now, because I guess, like, I don't know, it's whatever. But I'm okay with that. I'm learning to embrace singleness gracefully as I stay focused on the things of God, right? Right. But yeah, that decade was probably my safe number, like anything.
Yeah. Do you feel
So
that it had anything to do with you not having a father growing up, or you had enough family to be able to fulfill that father figure?
no. So yeah, probably would have it definitely would have probably helped having my dad, because with him passing away when I was going to the 6th grade, like I was barely in middle school.
Yeah. You're a
Oh,
baby.
yeah. So I would say the most integral parts of my life as a teenager, in my early 20s, where your dad really becomes your leaning board. Because like I said, even when you're younger, it's like, oh, you're a girl dad and you're having fun, you're learning how to ride a bike, stuff like that. But when you hit that middle school and you start really growing up, you want to date, you want to do all those things. I didn't have any of that. And no, I did not have anybody that stepped up in my life to fulfill that for me. And
Yeah.
so maybe that's probably too how I got into the whole dating older guys. But
Mhm.
also, I was always around older people. So my
Mhm.
conversation was different.
Yeah.
This also is embedded in that growing up fast thing, because you're sitting there talking with older folks when you're supposed to be
Mhm.
over there playing with the toys.
Yes.
But what they was talking about in the toys wasn't mentally stimulating me. And that is another reason why too, like me dating older men had become important, because my thought process was so advanced. Like the things I like to discuss, the type of music I like, all of those things were someone of older. I often have a lot of military friends that would tell me, it's like, Kamiko, girl, you born in the wrong era of time. You should have been born like 10 years prior to your time. And it's just because the things I enjoyed, the conversations I had, the things that were stimulating for me just was so advanced because of me being around older people early on in my life. So, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about motherhood, mothering adult children, because that is. So, girl, the thing is, we cannot mother these adult children like we were mothering them when they were young. And also, these kids these days, they're like no contact with their parents and all this. They're like, you ain't acting right, so I ain't talking to you. How are you dealing with this new generation of parenting?
I have learned, and it's funny you say that, because my kids tell me that. They say, Mom, you only let us adult when you want us to adult. I was like, because the other times y'all not adulting, y'all are still being kids. I said, that's why I feel like I still paying adult child support. But I would say I've learned a lot through them, like, especially with my mom transitioning and me and my daughter bond getting closer, because that's exactly how me and my mom was. I was a grandma girl. My grandmother passed away on my birthday. And so me and my mom really began to bond also after that transition. So, but I would say definitely parenting adult kids is one of its own, especially with the new modern generation. I
Mm-hmm.
literally have to consider them as like my mentees in business. If you do that, you'll be fine. Like it's hard, but it's like so like we literally have like family board meetings. So it's not like family time. You know, back in the day, we all sit down, we talk about, play games. No, but we have board meetings around here. Like it has to be strategically planned. It has to be something that is actually what they're involved in to
Mm-hmm.
keep their attention because you're competing with their schedules and their me times and they don't, they're overstimulated time, which I don't know what the word that means. I'm getting overstimulated. I don't know what that means. I'm like,
It
okay,
is different.
it
It is
is.
different.
But I think if for me, I kind of just look at it where I'm learning, keyword learning, to really let them bloom in their own way. And it comes with its challenges because, as parents, we want to hear from our kids. We want them to check in. So me and
Yes.
my daughter, what we do is so we have this coffee morning time. And it's funny because it's what her and my mom used to have when she was a little girl. Because I'm like, why is my 8-year-old drinking coffee before school with my mom? But that was their thing. So my daughter been drinking coffee since she was 8 or something like that. But in the morning, she will drop my grandson off to school and she'll come over and we'll sit and we'll talk and we'll have morning coffee time. So I've learned to just appreciate that time, but I also let that time the conversation be driven by what she has going on, not so much what I have going on. And so I've learned that that kind of works for us because you have to let them find something that's settling for them because then they'll show up more for that. Boys, girl, yeah, just I don't know. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. I think we have to because boys is so different. And I would say with my son, it's like they can truly go and not call or text and was like, "Oh, I just thought you knew I was okay." Through osmosis or through the prayer I prayed, I guess. So, because, I think and me and my son was just talking about this. We literally was talking about this like last week, and he was like, "Mom, we didn't learn how to communicate in the way that you want us to communicate now when we were little." So I had to go and I had to own that. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So I had to learn to create a safe space for them to come in and know that they can share things with boundaries still, because I'm old school. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because for me, I feel like, when you start parenting when you are very young yourself, you grow up together. And a lot of times when they are bringing stuff up to you, for me personally, I would feel attacked. So I would I would be like I would feel attacked, like, I would feel a certain type of way. So it's like growing and understanding and now seeing that they are adults and they have their own, life experiences, and how they view their life experiences is going to be different than how you view how life was. And so, yes, I was busy with school, with training. Surgical residency is not for the faint of heart. Transplant surgery fellowship is not for the faint of heart. And yes, I was busy with all those things. And I looked at it from my viewpoint of I am trying to create a better future for you guys and also showing you that the sky is the limit. There is no limits. God is your limit, that you can do whatever it is that you feel you're called to do. But then also now looking at it from their lens, where they're like, yeah, you did all those things, but we felt like you were not as present, you know?
There's like, but they didn't ask you to do that.
Right.
That's okay.
And that's the balance of it all, right? And also understanding that this is how they feel, this is where they're coming from, or whatever it is that they might bring up to you, and not feel so attacked. So I am learning to not feel attacked in these conversations.
And for me, I just give them the same cliche my grandma them gave me: keep living, you'll understand it better by and by. And
Amen.
because as they become parents, they won't get it until they're parents. And then even when they're a parent, our grandchildren generation is going to be different. So I think it's always evolving because this generation talks a lot about breaking generational curses.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, how do you know it's a curse without being attached to the person in the generation that it's a part of? But okay, whatever. Uh, so I will say that with this generation, it's more about them just saying that they want to do things new and different. So when they talk about the whole breaking generational curses, and I think as seasoned parents, we have to learn to allow them that space to do things
Yes.
different and really look at it as we're really here just at this point, we're just here as advisors, literally.
Yeah. And to create that safe space for them. And I love that. We are here as advisors, and as advisors, we cannot always expect them to take our advice.
Exactly.
We are just
And
advising.
so I used to tell them when they were little, while you in this house, you're gonna do it my way. There's gonna come a time when you're gonna get out of my house and you're gonna do it your way. And I ain't gonna like it either, but I'm gonna have to learn to respect it.
Yes.
And so it's just our turn for us to give them the respect that we asked of them when they were younger.
Yeah.
And so I think if you kind of look at it that way, it just helps this whole adult parenting lifestyle that we have learning to do together. Because it's interesting.
Tell me about two women, dead or alive, that you would want to have dinner with and why.
Well, one is obvious will always be my mom. And I say that. And it's funny you say dinner because the night before my mom passed away, her and I had dinner together.
Oh,
And so not knowing it was our last dinner together, I never forget we
wow.
had steak, shrimp, and asparagus. And if I could have dinner with her all over again, I would recreate that exact same moment with a totally different conversation.
What
So
conversation would that be?
I think I would have spent all night asking her things about herself.
Yeah.
And the one answer question I would have asked her is, after you're gone, what is one thing that you want me to promise you that I will do? And then I would live to do that thing.
Wow. Yeah, I love that because that's something that I wish I had had that time to just ask my mom about herself. Like, just tell me everything about you. And because now it's like all that I'm getting is from her siblings or from my dad, but it's like just wanting to know from her.
Yeah.
And I know the one thing she would tell me that she would want for me would be to have the closest relationship that I can have with God and to meet her in heaven. Period.
So my mom was an avid writer. So she had all these notebooks all over the house. And I took a picture of one page. And on the page is like she had a list of things that probably was her prayer list. It had family, well, it had her health, certain things. I would have to pull the list up. But she drew a line through every last one of them, except for one. And the one thing that was remaining was family.
Wow.
So I would say that if I had to guess what that would be was like, Mika, take care of this family.
Yes, I was helping clean my mom's stuff, and I feel like I kind of stole, but I stole all her journals and prayer books and everything. And I would go through those prayer books and I would read all those prayers and all those prayers that she had answered because she would write out all the prayers, all the things that I didn't even realize she was praying for us for.
Mhm.
Wow. Whew.
I would say the second woman would be Lauren London. And
Yes.
I don't even know why I am just so, I guess, in my own way, like I just love her spirit. I love watching her story and her journey. her continence, having her experience to finally have her soulmate, even if it was for a short period of time. I love the grace that she carries from what I can see. Um, and she probably likes she could be my cousin. Not but I don't know. It's something about her that I really, really just admire, in her story and in her journey. Yeah.
I love that. So let's shift to the women in the Bible. Two women in the Bible that you would want to talk to and just be like, hey, so how did you do this? Or what were you thinking during this time?
I would say definitely Esther. And
Uh-huh.
I just feel like I could resonate with her spirit and who she was in the Bible. Like just being able to be that incubator to pull women together, to be the person of wisdom that truly knows how to just get to the hearts and the minds of people. I love that. And the people, and not, again, and be focused on the people that God assigned to her on her journey. Like she had an appointed thing to accomplish, and with certain people in a certain way. And so for me, I think that's as a woman, because that's one of the things I long to make sure that, Lord, don't let me be so busy about me that I miss the person I'm supposed to share me with, so
Yeah.
your purpose can be fulfilled. So that's one of the things I would say. And then, of course, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is like, just like, what is it like to be the chosen one to carry?
The reason I'm laughing is because the person I just finished doing a recording with say those two exact same people out of all the women in the Bible.
That just means that, hey, we're in alignment, I guess. It's all right.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, so I would definitely say, Mary, Jesus' mom, just to be the chosen one, for God to see fit to choose you to carry something so great that changes all of humanity.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay. What is your most favorite place that you have traveled to?
I love like Croatia. I love Montenegro and Bosnia, the whole coastline. And so, on my military journey, I was able to be stationed in what we call the Balkans for 9 months. And so I traveled that area and that region relentlessly. But it was so beautiful, so peaceful. The people are amazing. It's just kind of like to wake up to those morning views, the clashing of the water on the rocks, to just feel like this is where God created, this is what he created humanity for us to be a part of. So for me, Croatia is definitely that region for sure, but Croatia specific is one of my places I really enjoyed.
And tell me what you would tell yourself at 15, 25, and 35.
At 15, I would tell myself, develop a financial plan.
At 15?
Yes. Only because I was gonna be a mom in 2 more years.
That's
And
true. Okay.
so, yeah.
That is true.
So, yeah, so I'm like, develop a financial plan at 16. So, only because I knew what was to come. So if I'm basing this on what came within the next 3 years after, I would have told myself, either develop a financial plan and or figure out a way to make you and your mom's relationship more than just church. And I say that because like during my my 15-year-old self, me and my mom relationship was solely built on church because she worked overnight. I was at school during the day. So we had 5 o'clock prayer right before I went to school. And then by the time I'm done with practice or whatever, by the time I came home, I would miss her. So
Yeah.
the only time we would spend time in the evenings together if it was a revival or something
Uh,
like that. So everything we did in those years were spent literally like in church. So I think At 15, I would have asked myself, I figured out a way to be more involved, or like figure out a way to be innovative with my mom to grow our relationship sooner than later, just due to circumstances. So my 25-year-old self, I would have told myself, go back and learn the art of intimate relationships. And I say that because when I met my daughter's father, we did what we call a contract marriage in the military. So, and I never envisioned that for my life. Like marriage, I never saw, like I would have, if you would have, I would have never would have thought my first marriage would have been a military contract marriage, as we call it. But at 25, if I would have stopped and reset and taught myself what that type of relationship meant, what it looked like, and what I
Mm-hmm.
needed, I would have not made some of the decisions I made moving forward in that area of my life. So I would definitely say restopping and resetting and learning the art of a partnered relationship. At 35 years old, I would have told, at my 35 years, I would have said, what do your life look like when you're done serving the Army? If I would have probably made a better plan, or just a transition plan, because I was so like, I was a trailblazer in what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also planning for your transition sooner, it would allow me to have more time with my mom before her transition, instead of me still being in the season of figuring it out. Because at least I could have planned where my final assignment was going to be, and or maybe just figured out a way to really truly cultivate and put my feet on the ground a little bit better. Because I waited until December 8th of 2022, I dropped my retirement packet, which is a year out from when we retired. And I had built a plan to buy a house and start furnishing like everything all over in Texas with my mom. And that was December 8th. I put a bid on the house December 16th and it got approved. And my mom passed away December 29th. So this late in the game plan that I thought I had, that it was going to be like I was going to have time, in a blink of an eye, was gone. So I would have told my 35-year-old self is to um, develop transition plans earlier, giving room for flexibility and change, but don't wait, because life is going to life and life is going to happen. But at least if you have a solid plan, you'll be doing small modification
Yeah.
instead of reconstruction.
Wow. Okay. This was amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more lightning round.
I know, I'm ready for it.
Okay. If you could be a flower, what flower would you be and why?
A multicolored rose.
Okay. Is that even real or is that bioengineered?
It'd probably be engineered, but it doesn't matter. I bought some. I have some rainbow colored flowers. I'm going to send you some on purpose next week. Well, not next week because I'm going to see you, but I will send you some soon. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, I like. And the reason why I say that is because I think that we should always have the ability to be as diversified, as cultured, and not put in a box. And to have the ability to be one color or three colors or five colors. Every season calls for a different color.
Okay. So what is this season What color is this season calling for?
Pink and purple. What are you talking about? She ready for bloom. Like, that's a no-brainer.
Well, let's give you one last wonderful question just for you. In this season of life, what is your word?
I feel like it's a trick question because you know I'm going to say bloom. You know I'm going to say bloom.
No, you're going to say bloom because we're blooming, baby.
There is no other word. Like, no other word. I would say, and I know it's not cliche. It's not everything that we have going on. But when I tell you I am in a season, bloom is like a small word compared to what I feel. When I think
Wow.
about where I'm at, what God is doing, experiencing the fullness of joy, being happy, being excited again, like getting my voice back, writing like crazy. That like it's like a river flowing with no end. So yeah.
Wow.